Can start. Hello again. This is Simona from Acunetix Solutions, as always. Thank you for joining us today for another CyberSec Pulse webinars. Let me remind you that Acunetix Solutions is a leading value-added distributor of cybersecurity and infrastructure solutions. And every month we organize these cybersecurity webinars to address various cybersecurity topics. And today we are going to talk about how to build a successful web security process. But more about that, you will hear from Acunetix representatives, Ali and Steven. But before we get started, a few reminders. So we are recording the webinar. So if you have a step away for any reason, don't you worry. You will get the recording on Friday or on Monday. And other thing is that you're muted, but if you have any questions, please write them in the chat and we will get to those in the end, in the verbal Q&A. So from my side, this is it. Ali, Steven, whenever you're ready, please take it away.
Thank you, Simona. Thanks everyone for joining today. And also we have with us Stephen from our side, from the commercial side. Myself, I'll be handling the presentation and the demonstration for you today. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate. It's going to be like a fun, I believe, presentation, because we're going to be digging a little bit about the challenges that modern web application security is going through. And we'll see about also how we can address these using the leading products that we work with. So in the beginning, we cannot deny that the current pandemic situation taught us a lot. It forced us to start a new way of living, adapting to a new norm. We never imagined that it could be possible. The whole world moved remotely, including businesses, conferences, grocery shops, shopping stores, whatever you want is now available through web access. With this rise of the number of web services, new security challenges always arise. And we're at the moment not in a different one. Today's agenda will be, seeing the challenges of securing modern web applications, shedding some light on why to start first with the dynamic application security testing as a first stage, introducing a little bit information about DAST and the rest of the web application security methodologies, and how DAST will be helping quicker in this process. Also, we have a session about the fundamentals of enterprise web security, how it should be treated, and what's the best practices. And at the end, we're going to be having a quick demonstration also how you can apply this, best practices of enterprise web security in our products as Acunetix. Also, I have to ask Simona before we start. I would like to start with the first question. I would like to know more my audience, so we can adapt, the information towards that. Please take a minute to answer the question, and we will be resuming shortly. All right. Okay, so we're seeing SMBs, a little bit of mid-sized enterprises, and also we have a decent number of big enterprises. There's also the part that do not know how many assets. That's interesting also. Thank you for your participation. Let's start from the challenges of securing modern web applications. I call it old habits, okay? If we see, we're gonna be going through some statistics around vulnerabilities generated by Acunetix and part of our yearly vulnerability report that we provide to our audience. So if you have time, if you are interested, also you can have access to this report on our website. You can see during the years that the number of vulnerabilities that were found using our tool is decreasing. Okay, so we have less high vulnerabilities, less medium vulnerabilities. You know, as a first sight, that looks promising, you know, but if we look a little bit deeper, the truth is less optimistic. We have observed that applications that are protected by web vulnerability scanning are the ones that are becoming more secure. We have also noticed that relatively new targets have more vulnerabilities. This is worrying from a security perspective. It means that new developers do not know or do not have the knowledge that is required to avoid vulnerabilities. It also suggested that these developers are working within a development structure that does not promote web security. Old habits, unfortunately, die hard. Also, looking at these statistics, we discovered that cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, JavaScript libraries that are vulnerable, and WordPress-related issues are up to 25% of the sample targets. This is certainly a lot. This means that the web applications are still quite vulnerable, but even though this number is 30% less than what we've seen last year. It seems that experienced website developers and system administrators are making progress. The situation is similar for SQL injection issues. Just like last year, the numbers are decreasing. Web security should be in the core of our development culture, and we should be introducing less and less vulnerable code with time with the help of automated tools that integrate within your software development lifecycle. If we look now more into the technologies that are being used at the moment in web applications, from statistics also that we gathered, we see that the demand for interactive web applications is growing. Because of this, web applications use more and more client-side technologies. As a result, the number of JavaScript libraries keeps increasing. Many of these libraries have vulnerabilities. Their authors and users know about these vulnerabilities, and yet around 25% of web applications use such vulnerable libraries. JavaScript libraries help to make development easier and faster, but some library versions can be vulnerable. Many web applications rely on outdated JavaScript libraries, for example, old vulnerable versions of jQuery. This can introduce cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, which is not a small vulnerability. Looking also on the analysis, we found that 24% of sample targets use JavaScript libraries like with known vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting more often, like jQueries, jQuery UI, Plupload, Moment.js. The jQuery library is much more popular than other libraries, so we perform maybe more checks specifically for jQuery and Acunetix. Do not assume that, for example, Moment.js is more secure library. It may simply use DAST often. Now, on the back-end side, estimates show that as of February 21st, 2021, more than 42% of all websites are WordPress-based. I mean, Salesforce use it, Microsoft uses WordPress, TripAdvisor, very big names. WordPress is so popular that there is no surprise that attackers focus on it. When it comes to WordPress community and security, there are three components: WordPress core, UI themes, and functionality plugins. The development community of WordPress itself is strong and mature. I mean, any discovered and reported vulnerabilities are immediately investigated and quickly fixed. But the big thing there is that their themes and their plugins are not managed fully by WordPress. So there is third parties that involve, and this is kind of hard to keep track on and secure it all on the same time. Any author can use these mechanisms to add functionality to WordPress. The security and quality of these add-ons vary significantly. The more popular the add-on becomes, the bigger the risk for security. Unfortunately, when an attacker discovers an exploit, they can attack it sometimes even thousands and thousands of WordPress websites at the same time. Now, if we look to the distribution of CMS platforms that is used most commonly, we see that apart from WordPress, there is Joomla, there is Drupal, that are also have big market share. Both have add-ons that expand their functionality. Similarly to WordPress, the core is maintained by a trusted group of developers and contributors, while add-ons are more likely to contain vulnerabilities. So, it's the same issue. We found in our analysis that 35% of sample targets had one or more vulnerabilities linked to this group of CMS platforms. The impact of these vulnerabilities can vary depending on the type of vulnerability found. This may range from cross-site scripting through to SQL injections and even high direct impact vulnerability that could lead to devastating information loss. Also, from the server-side technologies, it's also interesting when we compare server-side programming languages. We see that PHP remains as popular as before. The second most popular is ASP.NET, but developers more and more use others that are less popular server-side languages. When we talk about vulnerabilities, the situation is a bit different. The percentage of PHP vulnerabilities has declined a lot. The percentage of ASP and ASP.NET vulnerabilities is growing. The percentage of vulnerabilities in Apache and Nginx has declined a lot, while the percentage of IIS vulnerabilities is growing. So now, there is one conclusion that can come to our mind. When we consider this together with general statistics from the previous graph, it seems that the PHP Apache combination platform is becoming more secure, mature, and robust. The market also keeps favoring this platform for some reason. On the other hand, the ASP and IIS combination platform is slowly losing popularity. At the same time, it's still not as robust, as mature as we would be looking for. But PHP is so popular because of a lot of PHP websites are WordPress websites. The attack surface changes only when you update WordPress. So if you base on the initial release of WordPress, this is secured probably, but with add-ons on top, this can get vulnerabilities that may cause bigger issues. All right. Now, let's look at why we prefer or why we recommend that you go with DAST first to tackle all these challenges. First reason is that DAST is the quickest in everything, okay? DAST is quick to deploy. You don't have to, a big installation that should be done. There's no agents that you need to install here and there to be able to scan your application in any environment you want, easy to scan. All you need is a target or URL. And you can also easily get reports and integrate with your software development lifecycle. Secondly, DAST tools are universal. If you are familiar with the way web application or application security testing works, you have the code analysis, the SAST, and you have the dynamic, which is the DAST. And recently we got introduced with the IAST, apart from the software composition analysis that you can do also. So most of the other technologies, apart from the DAST, need access to the application, right? And needs to be tailored for the language of the application that you are developing with. When it comes to DAST, well, it's language agnostic. So whatever you have developed with, whatever your backend is, DAST doesn't care, okay? So you can scan it by simply having it accessible through a web browser. That's all what is needed. No other tool can even begin to compare in terms of how universal they are. WAF, no. WAF tools only work in production. Software composition tools only work with open source software. Static code analysis only work if you have the source code. IAST even only work for some languages, not all of them. Therefore, if you're looking for a tool that you can use in any context, or no matter how your company develops, DAST is the way to go. If you start with a third-party application, then switch to in-house developed application. DAST is ready for to adapt immediately. You can scan your internal apps, your development stage applications, and also you will be able to scan your production ones. Third point is DAST tools are the most thorough. To secure your websites and web application, you need to make sure that all of them are secure and that every part of them is secure. Then you need to eliminate the vulnerabilities that were found, right? This is yet another area where DAST tools shine. They don't just check for your web application code. They also look at the environment that the web application runs in. For example, a DAST tool will not only help you pinpoint a vulnerability in the application, but it also tell you if you're using a weak password, let's say. Again, no other tool can do all that at the same time. You may have heard myths that DAST tools have problem with authentication or authenticated applications, but that's simply not true at all, unless you're using an amateur solution. When we talk about DAST tools, we're talking about tools like Acunetix, NetSparker, and the rest. These are mature tools that provides and have the technology and capability to provide such capabilities without any problem. These are developed from scratch by companies devoted to web security. Therefore, however, one major advantage when using SAST and IAST tools, they make remediation easier because they can pinpoint to you the error in the source code. Luckily, we have also in our products the IAST capability, the interactive application security testing capability, where you will be able also to have the line and more details about the vulnerabilities that you will be able to find with our technologies like AccuSensor and NetSparker Shark. Fourth point would be DAST tools are the most cost effective. So investment in a professional DAST tool may seem major for a small business, but it pays off quickly because you can maintain a reasonably high level of web application security with just this one solution. On the other hand, if you invest in a different kind of tool, you get much less value for the money, and you are forced to reinvest every time that your business goes through changes. If you think that outsourcing your security will be more cost effective, well, you may be in for a little unpleasant surprise. While it does pay off to improve your security by hiring third parties to perform security audits, they give you absolutely no information about your everyday security sense. You probably wouldn't feel safe running an antivirus scan every half a year, so let alone web application security related scans. Another money-related advantage of DAST tools is the lack of hidden cost. In the case of many other solutions, you end up facing additional expenses due to the necessity of hiring expert or training dedicated security teams. Vulnerabilities pinpointed by Acunetix come with enough description for developers to be able to fix the problem without any special training or external assistance. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about DAST and how we can also differentiate it. Dynamic application security testing is a black box security testing methodology in which an application is tested from the outside. A tester uses DAST, examines an application when it's running and tries to hack it like an attacker would. Technology coverage. One of the most important attributes of security testing is coverage. In order to assess the security of an application, an automated scanner must be able to accurately interpret that application. You know, opposite to SAST, DAST scanners, for the most part, technology independent, as we said. This is because the DAST solution interacts with an application from the outside and rely on HTTP. It makes them work with any programming languages and frameworks, both off-the-shelf and custom-built ones. The second positive thing about DAST is that false positives and result verification is included, meaning in a false positive situation, when a test result wrongly indicates that a vulnerability is present, when in reality it is not, false positives are a nightmare for every chief information security officer and a common problem of automated security testing, especially in the case of SaaS tools. They are not only annoying, but they are drastically degrade the usefulness of a tool. You may end up spending more time and more money just weeding through false positives than fixing vulnerabilities. It often leads to disabling several security tests just to avoid the false positives and creating a false sense of security. DAST solutions are less prone to reporting false positives than SAST. If the application can execute an arbitrary SQL query at the will of the scanner, then there's no guessing there. We know the application is vulnerable to SQL injection. The introduction of IAST reduces also false positive rate to nearly zero. And this is something that we provide in Acunetix also, the additional IAST capability. SaaS tools also make it harder to reproduce and demonstrate some security issues. DAST tools can provide you with the HTTP request, HTTP response, and that can be relayed in a manual tool of your choice by your security team. This lets you demonstrate and assess the business impact of a vulnerability. Also, DAST tools are able to detect environment misconfiguration. The application code is just one building block of a complex array of interconnected web servers, proxies, databases, caches, and so on. Assuming that web security testing should focus only on the code is a naive approach to web security. Misconfigurations expose a large attack surface area that needs some attention. The DAST approach wins here because since DAST are done from the outside, The scanner is in the perfect position to test a web application for hundreds of potential configuration issues. Apart from the DAST, with the help also of IAST, we are thinking inside the box in this case, because we are able to have more insight from within the web application, what's happening during the attack. And here, as we said, from a DAST perspective, the DAST scanner first crawls a web application before scanning it. This lets the scanner find all exposed inputs on pages within the web application, which are subsequently tested for a range of vulnerabilities. With the IAST availability, the scanner will be able to have the full list of the application structure directly without the need to miss anything from the outside section of the scanning. So this improves the coverage, improves the false positive rate elimination, improves also the information that you will get from the scanner when you scan for vulnerabilities that has direct impact. So you will have the line of code and the source file where the vulnerability is with the IAST help. It's often believed also that DAST scanner can only test for in-band vulnerabilities. This may be the case for the vast majority of DAST tools, but for us in Acunetix and Sparker, we've been able to test for out-of-band vulnerabilities for several years now. We introduced previously Acumonitor. Acumonitor is our out-of-band vulnerability service. This will allow to detect a variety of out-of-band vulnerabilities, such as blind cross-site scripting, out-of-band SQL injections, out-of-band remote code execution, and most interesting within this category would be the server-side request forgery, which includes XML external entity vulnerabilities. The last point would be integrating DAST with SDLC. You know, many DevOps believe that DAST tools don't work well with systems development lifecycle. Tools like issue trackers and continuous integration pipelines were thought that they are challenged to be integrated with. But with nowadays solutions like Acunetix in this case, we are able to integrate within your software development lifecycle with your CI/CD pipeline, with your issue tracking system, and help you to automate all this and give the information to the right person at the right time, and also launch automatically scans for your production and development stage applications. Now, our perspective of fundamentals of enterprise web security is the following. We believe through this process that you will be able to cover all the security of your enterprise using the latest methodologies that are verified. First thing to do in this case would be do a thorough web asset discovery. You need to know what your exposure from a security perspective as an organization. You should check what are the assets that are exposed to the internet, if you know about them or not, are they legacy or not. All this is not an easy task, and I believe 10% of the audience do not know even how many targets they have or how many web assets they have. This is a challenge, and cataloging all this is not easy for organizations, definitely. That's why the first thing to do is to rely on a solution that is capable of helping you discover all these web assets easily and start your pattern of scanning. The second point would be trustworthy providing proof. As we said before, if you have information that is not verified, this can create lots of mess, lots of unnecessary lateness and remediation, more time from your security engineers to validate the vulnerabilities before. So actually, the purpose of a web security scanner is decreasing in this case, and it's complicating things more than it solves. In this particular case, when you have a solution that is capable of generating a proof that this vulnerability is present, this will be decreasing the time wasted during the cycle of validation because it's automatically done by the solution. It gives you the proof inside your report, so your developers do not need to refer to anyone else to make sure that the vulnerability is real. All this gives you more time. Invest your time in the right place, and this means that you are investing your money in the right place. Third point would be efficient automatic issue management. In web security situations, when vulnerabilities are found by a penetration tester, let's say, he goes and asks the security manager to ask the server's owner to ask the developer to fix the discovered vulnerability. Well, it's a long process that will need time, and information when it passes from person to person, it might change. So vulnerability scanning and reporting must be integrated with issue tracking systems to be able to manage it, and an issue tracking system that is already used by your business. To be efficient, the vulnerability scanner must be able to read and create issues without human intervention. When an issue is reported as closed, also the the scanner or the solution you're gonna be using should be checking back automatically if the issue is solved, and if it's not solved, it should reopen the same ticket for the user or developer to work on it again. In this way, you make sure that no vulnerabilities are not being addressed, and if there is any vulnerability that is reported fixed, also you can double check it if it's fixed and work again on the remediation if not. You have to have also a non-avoidable scheduling and continuous integration. When you are scanning an environment, especially for production environment, let's say if we start with, you have to have scheduling for these as nightly scans. You have to put a schedule for them weekly, maybe monthly, depending on your business needs and the criticality definitely of this asset you're scanning. When it comes to development stage environments, well, it's also more convenient to integrate with your CI/CD pipeline. So you will be scanning continuously and making sure no vulnerabilities are reaching your production. Last point is having a governed enterprise class visibility and reporting. So this solution should be able to give you visibility, clarity on what the status of your web security at the moment, and allow you as well to be able to see the progress your team is doing, because you need to improve also the process you have in development. So by using an enterprise grade solution, you will be able to have insight on the progress of your team as well, and maybe if they need some trainings, that will help you improve their security and make them have a secure development process or practice. So this is when it comes to the fundamentals of an enterprise web security. We have few minutes left, 10 minutes. I'll be going through quickly a demonstration on Acunetix 360 solution, the enterprise grade solution we have. And this time I would like please Simona to help me and roll the rest of the questions of the poll, because I forgot to signal her before. Thank you. appreciate if you can also help us answer this poll, and we promise that's the last request. Okay, we give it a few minutes more. We know that we bombarded you with multiple questions, so bear with us. Perfect. All right, so do you trust your vulnerability scanner? The results were 88% yes. That's a good signal, I guess. And I would like to know also what solutions do you use, so we can maybe have a discussion around it. At which state of development do you run vulnerability scanning at the moment? Live, production, development, 20%, not applicable. Okay, so I can see here also that most of the audience, 56%, go with production environment and live environment scanning. So they don't do development environment, as I understand. 19% go with development environment, which is also good. Staging environment, 6%. How frequently do you conduct web scanning? Never is 25%. Okay, 69% once or twice a year. So we are looking more into companies that doesn't have maybe a development life cycle in place. They hire external audit probably and penetration testers. Okay. Then let me switch to my other screen to show the solution. Simona, can you confirm that?
Yep, I can see it.
That's okay. Acunetix 360, perfect. So the way we're going to drive this is as the following. So I'm going to be giving you the best practice how to use a web application solution, and especially in this case, our solution, and how to apply the best practices on the solution. So first of all, you will go and discover your web assets through our discovery feature. Here, this discovery tool will be automatically discovering your web assets, online web assets. You can even tailor more the results by going and optimizing the different settings for it. So placing your organization name, second level domain, and range of IPs that you own as an organization. This is the first step. You discover your assets. You go and start creating logical groups. When we talk about logical groups, meaning that it's relative to every organization differently, you know. So when you want to organize your web assets, you might be organizing them based on which team works in it. Or maybe if you have multiple branches, you might want to address it by branch. So you create multiple group of based on the branches you have as an organization. So there's multiple ways to group your applications in a logical way that makes sense to your team and your organization structure. After that, you onboard your users. So who's interested to be part of the solution and needs to have access to the solution. Usually we are talking about developers, pen testers, security, audits, and so on and so forth. Even management levels can be onboarded, and you can control the access of every user to the platform, either by providing a certain permission to him or to her based on their roles. You can also give access to specific website groups so they can only do actions and view reports related to the groups that they are part of. You created the users. Now you have to start importing your assets from discovery. So all the discovered here, you can simply start creating new services. And by creating services, you will be able also to assign automatically these targets to different groups for your team to manage them better. You can also add separately websites through links and put them under relevant groups. You can import websites as well in bulk. So if you have a CSV file that has all the URLs you want to scan, or website or targets, same applies for the text field. You onboard all your targets and you're now set to start your scheduling and scanning. You can schedule your scans based on different also criteria. For instance, you can simply put a daily scan for your environments that are development environments. You can have a bi-weekly scan for your production environments, let's say. Maybe also you would like to, additional to the CI scanning that you are launching from the pipeline, you would like to do for your development also twice a month some full scanning, apart from the incremental that you can do within your incremental scans. After that, you configure your issue trackers. We support a big list of issue trackers here. These are the most popular ones. We support also for most of these issue trackers bi-directional synchronization. So you will be able also, if you report a vulnerability as a ticket, you will be able to follow up on the ticket status and launch a retest whenever needed if the, let's say, ticket is solved or reported as closed. We integrate with project management. We integrate as well with communication systems like Slack, Microsoft Teams. If you want to keep your team updated on the status of the scans, on the scan results, maybe you can send even through Slack messages to channels, to users, and Microsoft Teams also to channels and to users. If your system is not present here, also, you can use our REST API to integrate and fetch any information you want for the scans or even launch scans and automate everything through a third-party platform using the API. You have webhook integration, Zapier integration to extend more your capabilities of integrations. And you have the continuous integration systems availability for continuous scanning within your pipeline of development. We support also major providers, and this list of issue trackers, project management, and continuous integration is growing continuously. Every month, monthly, we are releasing a new support for a new track, for a new system to enlarge our support more and more. Okay. That's it for the demonstration. Any questions?